So I'd like you to first form groups of 3 or 4 with people that you know the least. And the third tenet of the small group is don't wait to be chosen, because that's the source of your loneliness. I've spent my life waiting to be chosen. I always say, I don't dial the phone, I answer it. Okay, and so in some ways we've been waiting all, so you say, don't wait to be chosen. Find 2 people that you know the least. Form a circle of 3 or 4 people. 5 and 6 is too many, because the larger the circle, the easier it is for voices not to be heard. Now, everybody doesn't have to do this, so every time you create a small group, you create space for refusal, not to join the group, but to say anything. So if you want to sit there and you say, I have a collage, and I don't want to say anything about it, and the group says, thank you, because we were afraid you were going to fake it. Got it? So that's the notion. Then sit close to each other. And the other thing is, the 4th, 5th, or 6th tenet of the small group that changes the world is don't be helpful to each other. Don't give advice. Don't give interpretations. Don't project your own meanings on somebody else's collage. It's not an act of kindness, even though you're probably right. It's all a projection, just sometimes the projections are accurate. So the question to substitute for help is, why does that matter to you? What does it mean to you now? And that's the deal. So form the groups, find your collage, form the groups, and then sit for 5 or 6 minutes and just give yourself space to think, so what's the meaning that occurs to me today as a result of a night intervening between now and when I made it? Which means I'm always capable of reinterpreting my life despite the certainty of yesterday. I knew exactly what this meant yesterday, and now here I am today. All of these pieces are answer to the question of how. So every moment is a mixture of metaphor and methodology. And so you say we design, you decide how to structure an hour, a day, a lifetime, 3 days, so that each piece is useful in itself. It takes us somewhere. In Ward's terms, it functions to restore our humanity. It functions to restore our connectedness and our community. Because whatever the problem is, it's a symptom of the breakdown in community. So this, to me, is a methodology of communal transformation. And so all these little pieces are structures. They're pieces of social architecture. And there's meaning in the detail of it. That's why you need an artist in the room, because they understand the nuance of experience. And so how you set things up matter. And so when you say, break into small groups, I know the small group is the unit of transformation. This is where humanity gets restored. And you're careful about it. And you say, and find people that you know the least. You don't say, go find somebody who's a stranger, because then people can say, well, I can defend against that. I know everybody in this room. There are no strangers. I'll go with my buddies. So find people you know the least. Don't wait to be chosen. These are all metaphors for what a restored humanity looks like. These are people that are choosing their life. They're not waiting to be chosen. That's why you never go around the room when you break up into small groups. You never count off. That's the problem with that. It's efficient. So humanity is stolen by efficiency. It's stolen by performance. And so all these little things matter. So then you go off into groups and you unfacilitate groups. You don't want the small group to be facilitated because it might go well. And if it goes well, then shit, now I need a facilitator every time I break in a small group. But you give them some ground rules. The number one is don't be helpful, because help is the form that colonization takes in a modern society. So the notion that I know what's best for you is a colonial act. It's globalization. It's intimate globalization. It's the export of democracy, the American way. There's nothing wrong with the American way, it's just not ready for export. So you inoculate people against helpfulness, and you substitute curiosity. Now, when we come back together, we have to do something. Otherwise, we'll stay in the small group. And if you leave the small groups on for too long, they get tribal. Even when you try to break them up, they say, leave us alone, we're not finished. I don't care if you're finished. The community needs you back, sweetheart. This is not about your... So now when we come back, you have to remind the community of what it has in common. And the methodology for that is to ask the question, what struck you? So the question, what struck you, brings lightning into the room. I like lightning. I need lightning to wake me up. All other means are too mild. I'm too armored. I'm too anesthetized. I need lightning. And so part of what you're doing is sustaining the energy of the community. You have to keep it moving. This is part of what the music does, what Michael does, what Barbara does, what an artist does, is it keeps the beat going. And so if you let things go too long, then the energy, as soon as the energy drifts, then you stop. And it's true in a classroom. If you're giving a talk or presenting material and there's no energy for it, what are you talking for? What's the point? To cover the material? You can do that alone. Don't inflict it on a classroom. If you want to cover your damn material, go off and cover your material and then come back when you're done. So the essence of popular education, or an educational classroom that restores humanity, is that you want to drain out as much of the coercion from that room as humanly possible. Now, there's still a world to deal with. And at the end of the day, he's still going to give a final exam, and he's going to grade people. But you say, well, for the pieces I can control, let me get out even the subtle forms of coercion, which silence can become. And so there is something incomplete about the small group that we just had. So partly the small group comes together with an ambiguous question. All right? We come back to reconnect ourselves and realize what happened in the other groups also happened in mine. So it doesn't matter who I'm in a small group with, there is something that connects us all. And that is community. So we need to complete the circle that you were in by talking about gifts. Now the gift conversation has to be done in the particular. It has to be specific and concrete. It can't be abstract and general. Otherwise it has no power. So you can't say this was a great group. Useless. Or you can't say, you know, I've got nothing to say to each of you because you were all so wonderful. That's just a way of staying distant. So what I'd like you to do is to reconnect in the group you're in just for about 10 minutes on our way to lunch. You can either do it here or go walk your talk. Got it? And say to the people, here's the gift I received from you in the 30 minutes we had together. Here's what you did that touched me. Here's what you did that allowed me to fall in love with you. And then when people say something nice to you, you just say, thank you, I like hearing it. You don't give a little speech. You don't say, well, I was lucky, or you brought it out of me. All right? That's a way of defending against my own divine, or the grace within me, or the gift within me. Whatever language you want to use, it's all the same. Got it? So you say, thanks, I like hearing that. And then if you're courageous, if you're as curious about learning as you claim, got it? This is an assignment. You say, tell me more. Give me some details of what I did that was so useful to you.